Let's get started. Jeffery Leving is the attorney for Elena's husband and a father's rights advocate. He joins me. Thanks for being with us. Elena clearly believes that the cancer played a big role in the custody battle in terms of the judge's decision. Your client doesn't believe that. What do you think was the factor?
Well, it's not what I think. I read the trial court's decision, and the judge specifically stated that this case is not about cancer. It is about custody of the children, what's in the best interest of the children, and relocation. This judge did not make a custody decision based on cancer.
But somebody can say, I'm not making this based on cancer, but then Elena's point is, well, she cited cancer 30 times.
Well, you could say that if you believe the entire judicial system is corrupt, which it isn't, and the trial court made a decision.
I did read the judge's ruling, and the judge said, look, they're both good parents, there should be joint custody, but it's a question of the husband lives in Chicago where he has this job, he's the breadwinner, it's 700 miles away. She could get up and move, he couldn't move. She is saying, well, look, why should I have to make a decision between my health and my kids?
Well, she doesn't have to. She clearly can move to Chicago. This is a terrible economy. She has no job. He's the sole breadwinner for the family. They're still married. And if he moves to North Carolina, he'll lose his job, and then nobody has any money, and she loses her health care because my client is maintaining health insurance so she could get the important cancer care treatment she's receiving. It's very clear. The judge made the decision based on what's in the best interest of the children.
We should point out that because this is an ongoing case, Jeffrey is not allowed to talk directly to Elena or ask any direct questions. But is your client able to take care of the kids? Is he there?
My client is not only able to take care of the kids, he's a great father, he's a loving father, and he's doing a great job. And the mom should move to the Chicagoland area and help out and co-parent.
But isn't there, I mean, there must be like a babysitter who's taking care of the kids all day while he's working.
Right. He has everything under control, but I want to address a critical issue. One of the best cancer care treatment facilities in the world is in Chicago. And she could come to Chicago and access that facility.
But isn't the babysitter basically raising the kids?
The mother, no, my client is raising the kids. And if what's he going to do? Just quit his job? She loses her cancer care treatment. They can't put food on the table.
But he is gone during the day.
Well, he has to go to work, and the children are taken care of.
But they do have a mom who could take care of them all day.
She is welcome to take care of the children, and the judge even recommended that she move to Chicago and do that. All I could say is the mother here would be an excellent publicist because she's put a spin on this that has captured the intention of the whole audience.
What is the spin? She's
You're
a good mother.
Former judge.
Yes,
and if you read that trial court decision, you know what the real reason was why for the custody decision. First of all, the judge decided that the mother was the least likely parent to encourage frequent and continuing contact between the children and the dad, the other parent.
The judge did say that the husband was more likely to encourage contact with the other parent.
Right, and you know, Anderson, unfortunately, that's one of the things that courts look at greatly. Who the parent is who will facilitate a better connection between the children and the other parent.
Bad decisions.
She made bad decisions. The worst decision is the fact that she's got to deal with a terminal illness. But we don't know how far that illness is. The children are losing
a mother because the mother is moving to Chicago.
The mother's lifeline is at Duke. End of the story.
The mother at least needs to go to Chicago and visit.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you for coming on and talking to us, and Jeffrey as well, from representing your client.
From NBC News, this is Today.
We're back at 9 minutes after 8. There seems to be no end from the fallout of that scathing voicemail that actor Alec Baldwin left for his 11-year-old daughter. In a TV interview on Wednesday, this according to the Associated Press, Baldwin says he's asked to quit his role on NBC's 30 Rock so he can now focus on the issue of, quote, parental alienation, end quote. Baldwin reportedly said, if I never acted again, I couldn't care less. But in a statement, NBC calls Baldwin an important part of the show and says it looks forward to having him continue. Meanwhile, the story has parents everywhere talking.
Hey, I want to tell you something, okay? Once again, I made an ass of myself trying to get to a phone to call you at a specific time.
In many ways, this voicemail message from 30 Rock star Alec Baldwin to his 11-year-old daughter has divided the nation.
I'm going to let you know just how I feel about what a rude little pig you really are. You are a rude, thoughtless little pig, okay?
I thought it was pretty ridiculous considering that his daughter's like 12 years old. Calling her a pig and all that kind of stuff is not very supportive of a father.
But other parents sympathize with Baldwin, a father caught on tape in anger trying to discipline his daughter.
You have insulted me for the last time. You have insulted me. You don't have the brains or the decency as a human being.
I'm sure everybody's had moments of, saying stuff they regret, and if we went around taping everybody, every parent's probably had those moments.
But some experts say he may have done irreparable damage to his daughter.
She will never recover from what her father said, and so publicly.
For his part, Baldwin's been mostly contrite, saying, quote, "There's nothing wrong with being frustrated or angry about something. It's the way you do it. And as people often do in this world, I took it out on the wrong person because I'm unable, under the current dynamic, to address the other person. I realized that was wrong." The controversy has sparked discussion everywhere, and here at Today, we've been flooded with email. One anonymous woman said Baldwin's ex, Kim Basinger, bears the blame.
Where is the mother in all this? Wouldn't you think she'd make sure her daughter was there when a call was expected? I'm a woman, but in this case, I'm on Alex's side.
And many viewers have questioned why the voicemail was made public.
I think Alec was venting on his message to his daughter, and unfortunately someone chose to air it all over the airwaves. I feel he should be left alone to handle this breakdown in communication with his daughter.
But public or private, experts say sadly this kind of anger is all too often part of divorce.
Unfortunately, what we've seen happen in this particular case, a Hollywood couple, happens in real couples, in their behind closed doors. It just doesn't reach the level of being so public.
Janine Pirro is a former district attorney and judge. Suzanne Bronicky is a clinical psychologist. And Jeffrey Leving is the author of Divorced Wars and founder of dadsrights.com. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
Boy, the emails have been pouring in here. And as we said in that piece, on both sides, blaming both people, all parties in this. Just briefly, 10 seconds each, what was your initial response when you heard this tape?
I was outraged as an attorney and as a father to see another dad so badly hurt, pushed over the edge because of alleged parental alienation. He's basically just trying to stain his daughter's life, and now she's being used as a tool against him.
All right, so he's on the dad's side, Alec's side here. Suzanne, what do you think?
My concern went right to Ireland, the daughter. How is this impacting her? What is she thinking? And how is this, affecting her long-term psychological functioning?
Janine?
I'm the last person who thinks personal phone calls should be made public, but at the same time, I was concerned about Ireland. But then when you look at the bigger picture, you realize that there's an agenda going on here, and when you parse it out, there's a real problem.
And there's also a lot we don't know.
Right.
And we haven't heard all these conversations between the daughter and the father, the father and the mother, so it's hard for us to really sit in judgment when we can't fill in the blanks.
But you know what, Matt? When you read her statement, the statement from the rep, Kim says basically, I didn't release it, but it's not sealed. And the translation of that is, even if I did, it wasn't a violation.
Okay.
It would have been all right.
What about lasting effects? We heard someone in the piece there, Suzanne, say this is going to irreparably damage this young lady. Hasn't she already been damaged by what's been going on over the last several years?
I mean, the marriage ended in 2000. It is 2007 now. The marriage ended at a critical time in her life. She was, between the ages of 3 and 5 when all of this was happening. And that's a critical time for parenting and attachment issues, and then to see it all in the media, all of this contentious divorce issues.
You know what jumps out to me? The system is broken. A custody battle shouldn't be allowed to go on this long. Some judge, you're a judge, should step in here and say, I don't care whether one of you is happy, the other's unhappy, I'm going to put an end to this.
Look, I've handled bitter custody battles, and here's the bottom line. You make sure that neither parent releases something like this, because I'm not sure if it's more harmful to her what Alex said to her, or the whoever released the tape and the impact that now she's being held up to public ridicule.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Releasing the tape is much more harmful than what Alex said. I'm a dad myself. I've said things to my own daughter I regret. If every father lost his relationship with his child because he lost his temper, every dad in America would have no contact with his child. But releasing that information and putting the child in the middle of the conflict is outrageous, because we have to focus on the rights of that child.
When you go to court, though, don't you ask a judge to seal the record so that these documents are not released and not made public?
Oh, in this type of case, I definitely would have done that. And also, if this was released in violation of a court order, as an attorney, I'd be seeking jail time.
Yeah, but sealed or unsealed, that's treating the symptom. The disease started years ago.
Let's go back to what you were saying about whoever released this. I mean, if it was Kim, that's, here's a whole other side with the mom contributing to this, just as they both have a part in this.
Well, there's no love lost here. There's no question about that.
And as a judge, what you do is you put Kim under oath. That's what I would do, and find out if she gave anyone permission to leak those tapes.
We're talking about this because Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger are public figures. They're very well-known celebrities. I guess the question is, how often does this type of thing get to this situation?
All the time.
It happens every day
with Joe and Mary Smith.
Yes.
Well, it happens every day in courts throughout America.
But again, it begs the question of, are we handling these types of divorces and custody fights the correct way in this country?
Well, if the issue is the parental alienation, then what the court has to do is monitor it even closer to make sure that, the mother isn't keeping this child from receiving or accepting the calls. And, by the way, she is being held and charged with contempt for interfering with the child's relationship with the father. 12 contempt citations. The judge has to act on those.
And bottom line, though, if you're in the middle of one of these, embroiled in this nasty fight, which they have for a long time, Alec Baldwin had to know he was leaving a message on a recording device, and that the chances of this getting out were pretty high.
Exactly, but he was pushed to the edge, and if I was his attorney, I would have had him in anger management counseling a long time ago, because any dad being pushed to the edge and facing the loss of his child is going to be pretty angry.
Well, I think both parents need parenting. Most parents in divorce situations would benefit from getting parenting and getting support through a divorce. It's an ongoing trauma. It's not a one-time event. It is ongoing, and it affects the children every day, and it affects the parents.
To be continued. Folks, thanks very much. Nice to have you all here.
So what exactly is parental alienation, what Alec Baldwin's been talking about? How common is it, and could it really make someone leave a voicemail like that? We have two people who say they see it every day. Joining us tonight from San Francisco, family therapist Dr. Tara Fields, and from Chicago tonight, father's rights attorney Jeffery Leving, who's also the author of Divorce Wars. He launched the website dadsrights.com. Good to have you both with us tonight.
My pleasure.
Tara, I want to start with you. What did you think today of Alec Baldwin's apology? Was he sincere?
It sounds like he's sincere, and it sounds like what was really important is that he had a voice because people were making him the bad guy or pathologizing him, as we shrinks call it. But my concern is that, in a sense, if he is now blaming Kim Basinger and using her behavior as an explanation for what he did, in a sense, he's doing what he's accusing her of, which is bad-mouthing the other parent and putting the child in the middle. And now this is more information that is out there in the media that could follow this child for the rest of her life.
So, Jeffrey, as an attorney who deals with father's rights, was it smart for Alec Baldwin to go on The View?
Well, I believe that he is very frustrated, and he probably went on The View to try and apologize, not to his daughter, because he's already apologized to her, but to apologize to the entire country, because he's been pushed to the edge, and he's struggling not to lose his daughter. He is hurt. He's in pain. I watched him on The View today. He appeared to be stuttering. He is in terrible pain. He loves his daughter, and he doesn't want to lose her. And it's terrible that he has to appear on a national TV show to try and salvage his relationship with his daughter.
But what is this going to do to that custody battle for him? I mean, was it a smart move for him in terms of the custody battle to do this?
It probably won't help. It probably won't hurt. It's just sad that he had to go that far. What's going to help him in his custody battle is very aggressive litigation, because the way I litigate, I always try and use honey first. But when honey doesn't work, and there's terrible parental alienation and visitation interference or something similar to that, then I have to use vinegar and fight hard. Or if I don't, my client can get hurt badly. What he needs now is strategic and aggressive litigation,
and let me
not
jump
television appearances.
Yeah, I want to jump in here also, but also what he needs is some serious counseling when it comes to, and she does too, how best to parent this child. And I agree with the attorney that let the attorneys fight the fight, but the most important thing is to do the right thing for the child. And when you insult another parent, what adults don't realize is that you are insulting the child, and you're putting them in a position that can carry on even when they're an adult, where they feel guilty, as he said, when they have an alliance with a parent, or even if they like the spouse that the parent is remarrying. So the most important thing is let the attorneys get ugly, but both these parents, in the best interest of this child, really need to heal things and stay away from the media.
So it sounds like you're saying this could absolutely hurt their 11-year-old daughter and carry on even longer. I want to ask you about this now, Tara. He said that his anger this morning on The View, he said his anger was misdirected, that really he was upset at the situation, upset at his ex-wife, and he shouldn't have taken it out on his daughter in that voicemail, but he did.
Yeah, and I see this all the time in my practice because I work in a community where they're very wealthy people and they're always divorcing, and unfortunately they do put the child in the middle and they treat them like an adult, and they do displace their anger. So it's wonderful that he acknowledged that, and maybe this will help other parents that are about to do this. But the most important thing is you need to contain your family, your feelings. You need to manage that anger somewhere else and keep your child out of it.
Keep your child out of it. Something that really stuck out to me that he said this morning on The View, and Jeffrey, I want to ask you about this. He said, and I'm quoting here, "Judges do nothing to protect your rights as a man. They want you to be the bad guy." How much truth do you think there is to that statement? Is the deck stacked against fathers from the beginning?
Unfortunately, in many cases, the decks are stacked against fathers. I believe it was Margaret Mead who once said, fathers are biological necessities but social accidents. That's untrue. Just look at the statistics that show the effect of father absence on children, and you'll know that that is untrue. But many people believe that in our legal system, and our legal system is broken. I know why he is of that opinion, because I did listen to him on The View, and he referenced a court date when the judge directed a contempt petition to be filed, so he thought the judge was putting him in a position where he had to be the bad guy to protect his relationship with his child. But that's not 100% accurate. What was going on there is that the judge may have wanted to protect him but couldn't do it without the correct petition in front of him, because the judge can't be his advocate.
I'm going to have to leave it there because we're about to lose our satellite time. But I appreciate your time and your insight from both of you, Jeffrey Leving and Dr. Tara Fields. A pleasure as always. Thanks.
I'm tired of playing this game with you. I'm leaving this message with you to tell you, you have insulted me for the last time. You have insulted me. You don't have the brains or the decency as a human being. I don't give a that you're 12 years old or 11 years old, or that you're a child, or that your mother is a thoughtless pain in the ass who doesn't care about what you do as far as I'm concerned. You have humiliated me for the last time with this phone.
Actor Alec Baldwin is determined to find out who leaked his angry phone message to his teen daughter. Baldwin has implied that his ex-wife, actress Kim Basinger, purposely gave it to the media. Not to be outdone, she shot back with this statement from her attorney, Neil Hirsch. "I'm concerned that Mr. Baldwin's recent statement, wherein he attempts to shift responsibility to Kim and her lawyers for his issues with Ireland, shows just how out of touch he is with the reality and gravity of the situation. So what will this mean for their daughter, and how will this impact the bitter custody battle?" We're going to turn to Jeffrey Leving. He's father rights attorney and author of Divorce Wars, and Lynn Goldbicken, a family law attorney. Okay, I don't even know where to start with this. To be honest, everybody, I'm a little uncomfortable even doing it, because, Lynn, I got to tell you, there is part of me that says, this is not our business. This stuff shouldn't be leaked. Families have horrific moments. It's not an excuse for Alec Baldwin, but geez, how far do we invade people's privacy?
You're not saying anything that I don't think. As awful as his message was, leaking it is just as bad, because this poor child's mother, the friends of her parents of her friends, the parents of her friends hear it, her friends hear it, everybody hears it. It's awful. What she should have done was taken that to the judge in their custody case and say, look what I'm dealing with. That's what should have happened.
Well, and in fact, I had Harvey Levin on here, who runs TMZ.com. They're the ones that publish this. And I asked him about this. And of course, he wouldn't reveal his sources, but he said, I don't think the daughter minded this getting out. My translation, and Harvey, this is just mine, is Kim and or the daughter turned this over to the press for a specific purpose. So, Lynn,
how would she know to do it?
What would you? Well,
how would she know to do it?
Kim would certainly know how to do this. For heaven's sakes.
Of course. But you know what kind of good sense is that to do? And by the way, did Alec Baldwin know how old his child was?
Well, okay.
I mean, wasn't that strange? A 12-year-old, 11-year-old? I mean, these two people...
Jeffrey, my parents named us Carolyn, Catherine, and Cynthia, and Carol, you. So the parent says an 11-year-old, 12-year-old. And again, I'm not sympathizing with Alec, with the words he used, the tone. It's absolutely horrific, the damage it does to children behaving like this. But there is something terribly unseemly, and as I said, I feel a bit unseemly now talking about it. But when I saw the headline about Alec Baldwin threatens his child as if the nation needs to come to the rescue of a horrible, bitter, nasty fight between two adults wherein a child is caught in the middle, just seems to me a bit scuzzy.
Yeah, I agree with you. This case should not be a case about two famous celebrities. This case should be about Ireland, a minor child, and her privacy needs to be respected. I mean, can you imagine her going to school? What are her classmates going to do? Make fun of her and ask her, well, why did your dad do this? Well, why did your mom do this? This is terrible. The tape should not have been leaked, and if the mother leaked it, and if her attorney leaked it, and if they're both found in contempt, I would support the court in sanctioning both of them and jailing both of them, because this is outrageous. Nobody should put the best interest of a minor child on the back burner to score points against Baldwin or any other father. And I've been representing fathers for many, many years throughout the United States, and these types of issues are not limited to this case, but this case is getting a lot of press because the parents are celebrities. There are many, many fathers in this situation and many children in this situation, and this is something that needs to stop. And I've done legislative work, I've done legal work and charitable work fighting against parental alienation, which destroys children, and it can do it permanently.
Okay, we're going to get to that issue in just a second, but Lynn, first, what would you do if you were sitting on a bench presented with this? Do you sanction a party if you find they release this material?
Well, I think there is a court order preventing either of them talking to the press. At least that's what I gathered from hearing the comment. Yeah, well, then I think she needs to be sanctioned for leaking it, because clearly she did or her lawyer did. But on the other hand, he needs some anger management here. You know, he's not talking to an adult here. And then again, who interfered in the privacy? Did this child take the tape to the mother? Is the mother listening to everything that the father says? I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here. I think the judge has a gavel for a good reason, and I'd be knocking both of their heads with it.
Okay, I don't have a problem
you were
with
a judge. What would you do?
Well, I think that's actually pretty good advice. I think anger management wouldn't be such a bad deal for Alec, because he does have a bit of a reputation in this regard, and we know what kind of damage. But Lynn, touch on the whole parental alienation, and then I'm going to go back to Jeffrey on this, because this goes on by both sides. This is not just, gee, the mother's the bad person or the father, but parents use those children in divorce court as a pawn for their own vengeance, their own anger all the time.
Okay, parent alienation is a concept that's been disavowed, because it was done on a study of 9 families. But I would think that the alienation would... Excuse me.
Hold on a second, Jeffrey. Hold on, Jeffrey.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
But I would say, as much as I think that what Baldwin did was wrong, I would think that the mother was doing the alienation by putting this out. I don't think he alienates. I think he just gets this kid really angry. But I think that the mother, by revealing it, is saying to the kid, you and I are a team, and we've got to go against the dad. But, you know, alienation takes a lot more than just one tape release or just one angry thing. It's a pattern.
Well, let me say to Jeffrey,
behavior.
you probably have the heavier side of the argument, the better side, I'll say, because it's usually the mom that has custody. It's usually the mom that stays home and talks about the dad's not paying child support, or they're not doing this, or he's off with a new wife, or that sort of thing, which doesn't mean that they're not right, but oftentimes they're the ones that on a regular basis are giving children information that can be destructive to that father-child relationship.
Exactly. Parental alienation is not gender specific, but the reason more mothers cause parental alienation is because they can, because the system allows them to do that. Our legal system is broken, and it needs to be fixed so no parent can parentally alienate a child against the other, because the ultimate victims are obviously the children, and
any parent can alienate.
Go ahead, Len.
Any parent can alienate.
Any parent can alienate.
Right. But more mothers
look,
have the opportunity because more mothers have custody.
Now, I've seen fathers do a pretty good job, too. What happens when a parent brings the child into the case, I want you to see the pleadings that your mother did or your father did. I want you to see this. You know, we can't go on vacation because he's taking his girlfriend or she's going with her boyfriend. I mean, both sides do it. Yeah. The system can't stop it. You know, good education.
The system can stop it.
People have children, excuse me, people have children without education. You know, we have more, we talked about this last week, we have more education of how to drive a car than we do about parenting and marriage. People don't get the kind of training that they ought to have. And the selfishness, the narcissism that some of these, especially celebrities, have, that think they can do anything, really harms kids.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, my last comment on this is, I know a lot of the judges in Dallas, when I was still there in family court, would mandate counseling before the divorce procedure started, and they would talk about these kinds of issues. I don't know that a judge can be the thought police and keep everyone behaving in their own living rooms, but in fact trying to explain to parents how vicious and how detrimental this can be, and that children will carry this the rest of their lives, would be a good place to start.
Catherine.
Well,
they don't listen. Parents go to those courses.
Okay.
Sure.
Joining us now, the author of American Morning and KSFO radio talk show host Melanie Morgan, and the author of Divorce Wars, Father's Rights attorney Jeffery Leving. Welcome you both. Melanie, what Alex said is inexcusable. It was terrible. Shouldn't have talked like that, especially knowing it's being recorded. But don't you have a question about how this tape became public and who might have leaked it to the press so that this could only hurt this child, right?
No, I do not care who leaked that tape to the public. No, I shouldn't. You know what I should care about is Ireland Baldwin, a little girl who happens to have a misogynistic and narcissistic father who has belittled her in an atavistic and cruel way that I have rarely seen or heard in public before. And I think that if Kim Basinger did leak that tape, and I think that whoever was responsible owes all of us a debt of gratitude, because now we have seen an evil act. This man has trashed this little girl's psychological well-being, and it is absolutely disgusting to me.
If Kim Basinger, we don't know if she did or not, but if she did, that would be in violation of a court order not to discredit her husband to her child. If Kim Basinger, we don't know, but if she did leak this tape, she is the one who's putting her child and embarrassing her child publicly.
No, it is Alec Baldwin who has put his child in danger. He has threatened her and bullied her and belittled her in a way that is shocking and stunning. And whatever is left of his pathetic actor's career, I hope that any woman or any sane person, including men, would recognize that this man is dangerous. How many red flag warnings do we need? And let me tell you, here's the frightening aspect of the story, is this man has political aspirations. So for that, I owe whoever leaked the tapes a debt of gratitude.
Jeffrey, there's no excuse for what Alec Baldwin said. It's absolutely inexcusable. No child or anybody should be talked to like that. But how can you not ask how this tape became public and what effect the publication of this tape has on this child that Melanie claims to care about first and foremost?
Exactly. The real issue here is in Alec Baldwin's outburst. The real issue here is protecting the best interest of Ireland, and the court is attempting to do that. And if, in fact, there is a court order directing such information not to be released, and obviously it has been released, the issue is the right of privacy for this little girl. The publication
Jeffrey,
of this
wait a
tape
minute.
surely...
Jeffrey, I'll deal with the issue of the leaked tape later. The more important question here is this man is threatening his daughter, belittling, besmirching, and threatening his daughter. First and foremost,
well, I'll be glad to respond.
I'm going to get on a plane. I'm going to come out there. You have insulted me for the last time. I'm going to straighten your blank out. I'm going to really make sure you get it. Don't you think that's a terroristic threat? I do.
It's not a terroristic threat.
Sounds like it.
It's frustration. Do you want me to respond? It's frustration. He's frustrated and he's hurt. I represent many fathers.
Why are you making excuses for him to take it out on his daughter? He's mad at Kim Basinger. Take it out on her.
Do you want my opinion? Do you want my opinion? My opinion is that parents lose their temper. I'm a father. I've lost my temper.
Have you ever talked to your daughter like that?
Lost his temper.
Have you ever talked to your daughter like that, sir?
No, but I have not gone through a terrible divorce, and I'm a divorce attorney, and I've represented many fathers.
I don't care how terrible it is. You are excusing his behavior, sir.
Sir, I am not condoning his behavior. My concern here is protecting this minor child from parental alienation, and I'm concerned about her right to privacy, and this tape should not have been released.
Parental alienation. Do you think she really is going to love him after that tape?
Yes, I do. I believe they have a good relationship.
You believe that?
What we have here is we have a picture of Alec Baldwin.
Excuse me, let me see. You're a rude little pig. Oh, how old are you? 12 or are you 13? He doesn't even know how. Father of the Year doesn't know how old his daughter is.
Sir, I heard the tape, and all of your viewers heard the tape. The key here is you have a snapshot picture of a dad at his worst.
A rude little pig.
Why don't we show a
11-year-old girl a rude little pig?
Sir, why don't we show a snapshot picture of him at his best? Why don't we show a true picture of him as a father, opposed to taking a snapshot picture of him when he blew up and using that to discredit him?
The state of Illinois can put the brakes on deadbeat parents, and the Denver boot can be used to do it.
Driving privileges are now at risk for parents who do not pay their share. Darlene Hill shows us how it all will work.
The Denver boot. Most times it's locked on a vehicle because the owner has not paid parking tickets. But now, because of a new state law, it could also mean this parent is not making child support payments.
This money belongs to the children. It is not about anything but the money that's owed to the children for their daily lives.
If you don't pay, you don't drive. The absentee's license could be suspended or vehicle booted. The bill's sponsors say children suffer because the parents they live with struggle to make ends meet, lacking the financial support they deserve from the mother or father living outside the home. The sponsors say the law is successful in other states because it makes parents responsible and accountable.
They have to take care of their children.
It's not deadbeat, it's dead broke.
Attorney Jeffery Leving wrote the book on fathers' rights. He says he hopes fathers are prosecuted and not persecuted.
For it to work needs to be modified so there's a right to notice and a hearing.
A lot of mothers are upset they aren't getting the financial help they need. They would not go on camera because they don't want to upset or embarrass their children's fathers, fearing the little support they are getting could be gone.
In other news, the state hopes that the boot will force deadbeat dads to pay up. NBC5's Charlie Wojciechowski explains.
They can be very effective for unpaid parking tickets, but now the state will have the power of the Denver boot to go after parents who fail to make child support payments. With the background of children at a West Side daycare center, legislators and Blagojevich administration officials outlined the bill which the governor has already signed into law.
Because this money belongs to the children. It is not about anything but the money that's owed to the children for their daily lives.
The measure, known as Senate Bill 1035, would not only allow the state to immobilize vehicles with the boot, but it would also allow for the suspension of driving privileges, as well as add severance pay to the definition of income for wage withholding purposes.
What this is about today is not so much taking away your license or booting your car, but about having a relationship with your children.
But boots and driving suspensions can bring in big money, $10 million annually, in the 20 states that allow it.
But the state doesn't have any boots of its own, so they're going to have to depend upon municipalities to add failure to pay child support to the list of bootable offenses.
Another tool, flagging passport renewals, was a big help to struggling custodial parents like Janet Mercer.
It's a small portion of what he owes, but it's going to help.
But fathers' rights advocates worry about the effects of the new law.
Many of them are unemployed or underemployed. They don't need to be beaten into a corner and humiliated. They need help, not prosecution.
The state says that's what it wants to avoid. That's why there'll be at least 2 notices before a car is booted. The provision, they say, will be only used as a last resort. On the west side, Charlie Wojciechowski, NBC 5 News.
All right, stay with me here because this one also a pretty wild story. A man donates his sperm to a lesbian couple. They're friends of his. Well, it results in 2 children. But then the couple split up. And to further complicate matters, the donor, who was a family friend, dies suddenly. Well, now, though, a Pennsylvania court has just ordered the dead sperm donor pay child support. What? Judge Glenda Hatchett has a TV show. You probably know her from that. She joined us from L.A. We also checked in with Jeffery Leving from Chicago, who is a father's rights attorney and the author of Divorce Wars. We started off by asking Judge Hatchett just what she thinks is going to happen.
I would not be at all surprised if we don't see an appeal from this case. Pennsylvania is one of the states, though, that does not have a law specifically that shields a sperm donor from liability from child support. So it's going to be very interesting. I would suspect that we're going to see this in the state Supreme Court and maybe even further than that. There's a parallel case now in the Pennsylvania Supreme Court dealing with this very issue. But I'm very surprised by it. I really am.
Jeffrey, were you surprised?
I wasn't surprised, but I was very disappointed, and I believe the decision is incorrect. Pennsylvania law, as I've reviewed it, is clear that only 2 adults can be responsible and liable for child support, not 3. The court's decision basically holds 3 adults liable for support, and the court cannot function as an activist court. It has to enforce the law, not change it. Laws are changed in the legislature, not on the bench. And to me, this is another example of gender bias against men in the system.
Is this gender bias, Judge?
I don't know that it's gender bias necessarily, but I absolutely do agree that under Pennsylvania law, you can only hold 2 people responsible for child support. And it seems to me that if they had not split, obviously we wouldn't have this issue. But it seems to me that the non-custodial parent now is trying to find a way to basically not have to pay as much child support. And I think that any time a sperm donor is involved in this situation, it's going to give them pause now to think about what is their liability, if any, going forward.
Well, and that's the thing. You know, this happened. They say they had an informal arrangement here, and that it apparently happened at home. We'll let you make of that what you will. If this had happened, though, at a clinic, would we even be talking about it? Jeffrey, do anonymous donors, you think, really need to be worried?
Right now, this is going to affect all donors, whether they're anonymous, whether they're not, because this tells sperm donors that it's not safe to do a good deed and to help a friend or friends. This is going to cause thousands of childless couples to be unable to have children because of this decision, which I consider very, very bizarre. I believe this is clearly, in my mind, gender bias against fathers, against men, and it's wrong. I mean, Pennsylvania law is clear from my review and analysis of Pennsylvania law. Only 2 adults can be responsible for child support, not the neighbor, not the grandmother, not aunts or uncles. Only 2
but very
adults.
Very importantly, though, we must remember that there are states that have laws that will specifically shield the donor. So this is, although Pennsylvania does not have it, there are states, Erica, where the donor will be specifically shielded from any liability. And so it's just going to be incumbent upon anybody who's thinking about being a donor to check to see what the law is in that state. And if there's a question, I would suggest they contact the lawyer about it.
Or not just donors, but I would think any couple thinking about having a child, especially gay couples here, what's the easiest way to avoid it? Jeffrey, do we just need to draw up some papers or do a legal adoption? Is it that simple? An
adoption is one way to straighten this out. If the lesbian couple had adopted these 2 children, then there's a good chance the biological father would not be responsible for support. But the best way to straighten this out is through the Uniform Parentage Act, which has been adopted in 2/3 of the states in this country. But Pennsylvania has not adopted it. So my advice to sperm donors: stay out of Pennsylvania.
All right, Jeffrey Leving and Judge Glenda Hatchett.
Good to have you both here tonight. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right, Jeffrey, so we get this ruling and it says yes or no, but a lot of people can't understand why, once we know who the father is, that it doesn't end everything. Why doesn't paternity determine custody?
Because the system doesn't always work. And if you look at the Bahamian Code, the biological father could end up a joint guardian with the maternal grandmother, which could confuse the case. And if that occurs, the next step for the maternal grandmother could be trying to prove the biological father is unfit and therefore try and take the child from the dad. I hope to God that doesn't happen, and I hope this case ends. Also, another possible scenario would be the biological father and the psychological father, or the alleged psychological father, litigating for custody, which is another possible scenario. I just litigated a case just like this in Chicago, and I was successful, and the court awarded custody to the biological dad, and the court stated on the record that the biological father has superior rights to any other party in the proceeding. And I believe that's the case here. I believe the biological father will have superior rights to anyone else in the proceeding, but that doesn't mean the case will end, and that doesn't mean the DNA test results will be determinative of the child's future. And I just hope we start focusing on the child's future and the rights of the dad. And if the child does, by some slim possibility, end up with the grandma, that concerns me. And the reason that concerns me is because if the child gets older and asks the grandma, well, what could you tell me something about my mother or my father, what will she say?
Out to you, Jeffery Leving. He's father's rights custody expert and author. He also represented Elian Gonzalez's father. You all remember the struggle of Elian Gonzalez from Cuba. Jeffrey, where do you land on this?
Well, my opinion here is the rights of the biological father are superior to the rights of anyone involved in this case. And I recently handled a case like this in Chicago where the court made that decision, and the court determined that the maternal grandmother had no standing to even seek custody, and my client, the biological dad, walked away with custody. I think this could be the outcome here, but there are problems because I have studied the legal code in the Bahamas, and even though the maternal grandmother has no right to standing to seek sole custody, there is a two-step process where she could seek joint guardianship with the biological father, and if she's successful in doing that, then she could try and bounce him out if she could prove he's unfit.
Live from Chicago's NBC5, this is NBC5 News at 10.
Less than a week after a popular Southside teacher was killed in her home, a custody battle is brewing over her child. NBC5's Marion Brooks talked exclusively with the father of Tanisha Thurman's son. Marion?
Allison, first let's be clear here. Another man is in custody for her murder, but the father of Thurman's two-year-old son Samuel will be in court tomorrow asking for custody. Tanisha's family is saying the court action is in poor taste since they haven't even put the boy's mother to rest.
I need him. I want him right up under my arms. I want to hug him.
Rayshawn Taylor plans to fight for custody of his 2-year-old son, Sam. Sam's mother, Tanisha Thurman, was killed last week, and the boy is now with her mother. Taylor feels court is the best way to handle getting him back.
It's just to bring little Sam home, you know, and that's what I want. I just want to take care of my son.
His attorney says a custody order from the court is critical.
If the father goes to the maternal grandmother's house to pick up the child and she refuses, and there's any type of police intervention, knowing how the system works, I would speculate that my client would be the loser.
Tanisha's family didn't want to talk on camera tonight, but called the court action poor taste and poor timing. Tanisha's mother hasn't even buried her child, saying also they're not trying to keep Sam from his father, but all the boy knows is us.
Live from Washington, this is Equal Time for Wednesday, January 12, 2000. Here are Ollie North and Paul Bagala.
And joining us now from Chicago, front and center, attorney Jeffery Leving, author of the book Father's Rights. Jeffrey, help me with this thing. I have suggested that the only way this father can truthfully testify as to what he really wanted for his son is for this father to be here. Can the courts adjudicate this without the father being here?
Yes, they can, and the INS has already done that. The federal government has exclusive authority in determining immigration issues, i.e., who is allowed into the United States. And the INS has made that decision, and this decision is clearly within the province of the federal government. For the state court to make a contrary decision, and the state court's contrary decision was enjoining Ilion from being removed from the jurisdiction, is blatantly unconstitutional, and it's a slap in the face of the federal government.
Do you believe that it takes Fidel Castro and his thug regime to make a father love his son? Don't you believe the father when he says, I love my son and I want to raise him now that his mother's dead? Is that hard to imagine?
It's not hard to imagine. I believe this father loves his son. But first of all, let me tell you, I am anti-Castro. I believe that Castro has stolen freedom from a lot of Cubans, but that's not a reason for us to steal a little boy from his father.
But Jeffrey,
this boy belongs with his father.
Jeffrey.
Amen.
The father was the primary caretaker of the boy. This boy needs to stabilize, and if this boy doesn't stabilize, all you have to do is look at some of the statistics on pages 46 and 47 of my new book, Father's Rights, and see what happens to fatherless children. Fatherless children are more likely to commit suicide, abuse drugs, and develop behavioral disorders. And those are fatherless children that have mothers. Here's a fatherless child that doesn't have a mother.
But Jeffrey,
we need to get this boy back.